Of all the great religions of the world, the strangest is the weird faith of the Hindus. Dominating more than half the Indian people, Hinduism is not merely a form of worship, it is a way of life. Into the many inner mysteries, no white man is allowed to penetrate. Into the bizarre beliefs of Hinduism, none can be converted. For the Hindu must be born, and born again, and yet again, until the weary duplication of his earthly lives is halted in nirvana, the Hindu heaven of eternal peace. Every Hindu believes in one God, the supreme spiritual being, permeating men, women, animals, and all the visible world. But not in God, one and indivisible, for the God of the Hindu can manifest himself in many forms, and to each form of God, its temples and its devotees. Here an idol of the goddess Kali is carried on a tour of her domain. Kali is the form of God which governs and delights in blood. Kali the terrible, whose anger must be allayed with sacrifice. Once upon her altar human beings bled to death. Now the blood of goats is held to be enough to satisfy her thirst. Her idol is of solid gold, inlaid with precious stones and hung with jasmine. In Hindu mysticism, Kali is the wife of Shiva, the destroyer. But the destroyer can delight in not destroying, and in that mood he is Nandi the bull, Nandi the joyous, worshipped as an embodiment of the force of reproduction. For him too there are rites, with prayers and incantations, and with ceremonial processions round his sacred image. For the delight of his pleasure-loving senses, an offering of sandalwood is held below his nostrils. To augment the many moods of God is one of the imperatives of Hindu ritual, and every animal is pressed into the service. Kali the terrible, who rides upon a tiger. Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth and beauty, and beside her Krishna, the Hercules of Indian mythology, one of the incarnations of Vishnu. Shiva, the destroyer and reproducer, whose attendants are the snakes and whose symbol is the bull. Among the sons of Shiva, Ganesh is the elephant-headed god of learning and good luck. And for the forms of God to exercise their powers upon, there must be demons like this, the demon of Mysore, who legend relates was slain by Kali. Kali, in her other name of Durga, whose temples are always blood red like the blood she rules, has made sacred another form of animal beside the tiger. Here in the temple of Benares, the white-robed priests induct a stranger congregation than can be found in any other quarter of the world. At certain hours of the day, the piping of a flute invokes the tribe of incarnated gods, the sacred monkeys, dwellers in the temple who are prayed to as the descendants of the god Hanuman and regularly fed with lumps of sugar. Hanuman in religious Hindu history was a monkey who befriended Vishnu, God the preserver, when as Rama he came down to earth in human form. So long as the legend of Hanuman persists, the monk is worshipped in this blood-red temple of Benares. At Belur and Halibib stand temples which have been back from the jungle. 1,000 years ago, they were in time engulfed by the encroaching undergrowth. For hundreds of years, they were a legend. But recently, the Maharaja had the ground cleared of the giant jungle weed, and the temples became again the houses of Hindu worship. Once more, an acolyte daily makes the round of these sacred precincts, tolling the handbell, which is used to scare away the evil spirits. The outside walls are richly carved with incidents from Hindu legend, so rich that not one panel resembles any other, and the labor must have occupied the lifetime of 1,000 masons. Nothing else can so well illustrate the baffling complexity of Hindu faith. For the one God of the Hindus, beginning simply enough with a trinity of beings, then betakes himself a multitude of wives, begets children as divine as he is, descends to earth in many forms, and there makes friends and enemies who by association become half divine, and so on in a vast, bewildering variety of invention. In all the modern world, there is no parallel to such complexity of faith. There has been nothing like it since the pantheism of the ancient Greeks and Romans. Here the sadhus, holy men of India, sit upon the temple steps, indifferent to the shimmering relentless heat, meditating on the many Hindu forms of God. And here within the temple is the holiest of holies, sacred to Shiva and the dance of destruction. At Agra is a temple of love, the Taj Mahal, the world's most beautiful memorial, and in itself most beautiful by moonlight. The Taj Mahal was built in memory of the queen and emperor adored, the Mumtaz-i-Mahal, which is in Hindustani the 11th palace. The Mumtaz was beloved as no other woman has been loved before or since. In life, she bore the emperor 14 children, and she died in giving birth to the last. In death, the royal Shah Jahan made their passion deathless in this dream of beauty, frozen into white marble, which is inlaid with precious stones. 22 years were spent in building a tomb beautiful enough to formulate an emperor's bereavement. And according to a Jesuit who visited this part of India at that time, the designer of the Taj Mahal was a Venetian jeweler. It may well be so, for this mausoleum is the jewel of all architecture, the supreme expression of human gratitude for happiness.